Birds screamed terribly in the sky of the state of Hwarung. There, fire quickly devoured everything around. The royal palace was quickly turning to ashes. The air was filled with the smell of acrid smoke. The royal servants frantically rushed about the corridors. Deciding that the sun goddess was angry, they tried to save themselves by running away. Some of them fell to their knees, begging for mercy. The space was filled with fire and acrid smoke. The pathetic little people were begging for mercy, deity about to call forth flame. The guy begged her to withdraw her fire. He asked the great goddess of the sun to have mercy. The girl, hugging the animal, said that everything was already over. A bloody sword lay next to her. She looked coldly at her lover, who was slowly bleeding to death. The goddess recalled the times when she was called the sun of these skies. She explained that now she would turn into an evil spirit who could destroy the world. Her skin began to slowly peel away, revealing her skull. Hot tears began to flow from the goddess's remaining eye. The events are transferred 300 years ago to the heavens. The maids kneeled and greeted the goddess of the sun. A small tiger cub slowly walked behind the brunette. The girl said that she would come down to earth for a short while. The animal wished Mrs. Moha a safe journey. The goddess scratched the tiger behind the ear and thanked him. One of the men noticed that Moha had become even more beautiful lately. The brunette dreamed of being born her divine beast. The guy envied the tiger cub. After all, the lady looked at her creature with incredible tenderness. Moha was the precious youngest daughter of the heavenly ruler. Now the girl was one of the most powerful gods in heaven. The guy said that he wouldn't need anything if he married the beauty. The colleague advised the brown-haired man to give in. He explained that the lady's heart had already been taken by another. The divine being asked who the lucky man was. He pointed through the clouds to a luxurious castle. The goddess living in the sky fell in love with a man from the human world. The lucky man was the king of Hwarunguk, named Yemhu. Laughing, the guy said that his beloved did not feel sorry for him at all. The king admitted that the goddess always frightened him with her unexpected appearance. The couple in love shared between themselves an ordinary love that was no different from other lovers. The goddess noticed that about 8 years had passed from their first meeting. Moha was surprised to realize that time was flying by so quickly. The beloved asked not to talk about this topic. Smiling, the king said that the night was very short. He gently kissed his beloved. Unlike his beloved, Yemhu was a man destined for a short life. With sorrow in his voice, the servant reported that the ruler had been severely poisoned. With rage in her eyes, the goddess asked who had done it. Her worries turned into reality, her beautiful face distorted. Moha took her lover's hand with tears in her eyes. The boy reported that it happened sooner than he expected. The king explained that it had to happen. The goddess sat down on the bed next to her lover. Her body was shaking, and her heart was beating wildly as if it was trying to escape from her chest. She wanted to find a way to save Yemhu. The sun goddess was not ready to let go of her lover. Moha realized that she should use the heavenly elixir of immortality. The effect of the elixir was amazing. The king told the lady that it was incredible. The guy noticed that his body became so light, as if it could fly. The sun goddess looked at him with a smile. Moha was glad that he had recovered quickly. With tears of joy in her eyes, the girl reported that he had drunk the heavenly elixir of immortality. She explained that this potion cured all diseases and allowed one to live for tens of thousands of years. The goddess said that now they could spend their whole lives together. The king received the same long life as the gods. The young man burst into tears and thanked Mrs. Moha. The guy asked how his beloved managed to get such a rare medicine. The lady said that she was a goddess. With drooping eyes, she confessed to theft. Only gods were allowed to use the elixir of immortality, and according to heavenly laws, it was not permissible to pass it on to mortal man, and it was considered a serious crime. Therefore, the sun goddess Moha was sentenced to 300 years of exile on earth. The events take place in the temporary residence of the king of Nanyang in Mungju County, on the edge of the eastern lands of Hwarunguk. The girl complained that fate did not prepare her for earthly life. The deity was interested to see the lady's beloved. A friend advised him to speak more quietly. The young man was afraid that she could hear everything. The girl admitted that she was very upset. She explained that he was the king of the state. She couldn't understand how the ruler could settle his beloved in such a hole. The maid was indignant that he lived warm and cozy in a luxurious palace, while the mistress herself was forced to while away 300 years on the outskirts of Hwarunguk. The girl sighed heavily and realized that nothing could be done. The goddess reminded her that the lady was very strong. Moha could accidentally harm people. The girl agreed with her colleague, realizing that the ruler had acted cruelly. The king knew how terrible life in exile was for a god. She reminded that Moha's strength was depleted with each passing day. All the gods exiled to Earth were completely exhausted and could no longer return home. One of the friends was taken aback when she saw the lady in front of her. Moha asked her not to worry. She reminded her that she was strong enough to last for some 300 years. The goddess looked at her pets and realized that she was deeply guilty before them. Moha turned to the sacred beings of heaven. The girl felt sorry for them that they had to suffer on Earth. The little tiger asked the lady not to say such a thing. The pet assured that he was happy to accompany her even on the ground. The goddess realized that she only needed to hold out for 300 years. She understood perfectly well that she would spend all this time with her lover. The girl knew that it was for the best. Several years later, the goddess said that she had come to see Yemhu. The guard mumbled something. The lady roughly pushed him away and headed for the entrance. The beauty heard her lover's cheerful laughter. Smiling, the maid asked what they had done to deserve such treatment. The girl reminded them that he called them to his chambers every night. One of them could not believe that they served a godlike being. The ruler smiled and was delighted by the flattering words. The king said that with such a long life, he was on par with the gods. He asked to be called the god of war. Yomhu reminded him that he had no equal in martial arts. The goddess looked at her lover reproachfully. Contempt was visible in her eyes. One of the mistresses pulled His Highness up. The guy took a sip from the neck of the alcoholic drink. Cold drops of drink rolled down his face. The worker announced that the sun goddess had arrived. Moha turned around and left silently. Grabbing his beloved by the hand, the king asked if she was ready to leave after such a long journey. The guy squeezed her wrist tightly. Yemhu assumed that the sun goddess wanted to join them. The girl responded to her lover with a slap. The goddess noticed that he was mired in women and drinking, forgetting about state affairs. She asked whether her beloved had heard the voices of his suffering people. Yemhu thought for a few moments. Smiling, the ruler said that if the people suffered so much because of him, then he should have died. The guy held his beloved close to him and reminded her that she had saved him. The young man reminded her that this was her share of responsibility. Moving away from the goddess, the king said that the music should not be stopped. With a crazy smile, Yemhu asked to play louder. The sun goddess realized that she could only hold on to life with the help of the elixir of immortality. The boy's soul was mired in sins. Hot tears slowly rolled down her eyes. She realized that she could not do the same to the soul of her beloved. The goddess understood that there was no point in regretting anything. The goddess looked at her favorites. The girl realized that she could only endure the remaining time. She suddenly fell to her knees. The maids rushed to their mistress. Moha said that she was just tired. The girl realized that her strength was becoming unstable. She knew that there was not much time left. The goddess wondered if she would be able to return to heaven. The maid assumed that it was because of Yemhu. The girl asked to leave the king alone. Moha, looking at the pets, realized that she herself was a criminal. The goddess did not want to punish someone with such a status. She decided to wait until the beloved became the same. Much time passed. The girl lay under the open sky. Heat! There was little time left until the day of returning to heaven. The goddess leaned on the furry body of her pet. Moha looked at the bright rays of the sun and realized that she still had half a month left. The beauty couldn't wait for the moment when she would return to where she belonged. The red tiger announced that a major festival would soon be held in the capital. The animal explained that this event would be timed to coincide with her departure to heaven. The sun goddess reported that the state was not in a position to hold celebrations. Standing on his hind legs, the pet assumed that this was Yemhu's order. The tiger said that the king didn't care what happened to his country. The goddess was surprised that he had not returned yet. Moha realized that the fate of the ruler cares for his people. But the lover made the common people starve. The young man killed all who disagreed. Yomhu became the worst tyrant in history. The girl felt a sharp attack of nausea. Scarlet drops of blood were visible on her pale skin. The pet asked the lady not to exhaust herself with bad thoughts. Her illness had been getting worse lately. The goddess assured that it was nothing. She was sure that she would be able to heal when she returned to heaven. Smiling, the girl said that it had been a long period. The sun goddess was sure that she had exhausted her power. The black tiger bowed his head and said that a letter had arrived from Yemhu. Pomraknev, another pet, reminded that there had been no news from the guy for a long time. Looking down at the floor, the girl said that he was holding a reception in the palace on the occasion of her return to heaven. The goddess reported that her lover was expecting her presence. The events are transferred to the royal palace of Hwarunguk. Having bowed, the maid poured the king some tea. The girl asked what kind of happy events. Smiling, Yemhu explained that Mrs. Moha would soon be returning to heaven. The young man assured that there was nothing more joyful than this news. The king explained that he was very guilty before her. The guy decided to hold a grand reception in honor of this. He hoped that this would make his beloved happy. Moha happily realized that the day before her return to heaven had arrived. The capital was in the midst of celebration. Children frolicked happily in the streets. A light wind carried confetti and swayed lanterns. The events are transferred to the palace. The maid assumed that the sun goddess would miss this celebration. The girl recalled that the relationship between the lovers had undergone a severe breakdown. A friend reported that the gentleman had been waiting for the arrival of the sun goddess since early morning. The worker sighed heavily, afraid of getting caught in the crossfire. The king raised an eyebrow and looked at his reflection. He was sure that his beloved would come. Looking into the water, the goddess realized that she had to sort out her feelings for Yemhu. The girl suddenly grabbed the golden cape. The sun goddess decided to go to her lovers. Moha asked her pet to gather her belongings. The men greeted the sun goddess. 3 tigers walked in front of the girl. With a radiant smile, the traitor greeted his beloved. Yemhu admitted that he was afraid that she would not come. Smiling, the guy suggested going into the hall for a proper reception. He hugged the goddess and said that in honor of her departure, he filled the hall with rare and pleasant things. Moha slapped him on the arm and explained that she had not come to enjoy the celebration. She said that she wanted to talk to him alone. Entering the room, the young man offered to have a drink. Having poured hot tea into the cup, the king noticed that time was flying by inexorably. Yemhu assured that he felt as if he had met his beloved yesterday. The king explained that he could not have dreamed that he would live to see this day. A radiant smile was visible on his face. The guy reminded her that all this was possible thanks to the elixir of immortality that she had given him. Moha lowered her eyes and assured him that this was the biggest mistake of her life. The goddess reminded him that he should have disappeared from this world 300 years ago. Her expression was gloomy and her voice was cold. Moha explained that they had lost too much because of her wrong choice in protecting him. The lady realized with pain in her heart that she could not return the love that she so fiercely wanted to protect. The traitor grinned and drew attention to the wonderful day. Yemhu asked why there was a dialogue about this. The goddess explained to her former lover that it was time for him to leave the throne. The young man grinned and said that his lover's jokes had crossed all boundaries. The lady explained that she was serving a sentence and did not have the power to correct all her mistakes. The girl realized that the people continued to suffer because of her. Moha couldn't abandon people even after ascending. The goddess warned that if he didn't come to his senses, she would take his life with her own hands. A smile appeared on the young man's face. Soon, a ringing laugh filled the room. Approaching his beloved, the king suggested that they be honest with each other. Yemhu gently took the girl's hand and put it behind his ear. The guy was sure that she would not be able to take his life because she still loved him. The king reminded her that the sun goddess kept herself away from the world. He knew that his beloved turned a blind eye to his tyranny. Yemhu noticed a slight tremor in her body. The guy assumed that such thoughts still frightened his beloved. Smiling, he noticed that the lady was still filled with love. The goddess suddenly flared up and swung at her lover. Moha suddenly started coughing. Scarlet streams of blood began to flow down her lips. After showing her emotions, the goddess lost consciousness. Opening her clouded eyes, she asked what her lover had done to her. Hot streams of tears began to slowly flow from the girl's eyes. Her body shook convulsively. Smiling, Yemhu wished his beloved that everything would end while she was sleeping. The girl's consciousness began to cloud over. She gave up and closed her eyes, feeling unbearable pain. Moha heard someone's voice calling her name and begging her to wake up. The girl was kneeling in a room that was slowly being devoured by tongues of flame. Looking around, the goddess could not understand why the whole world was drowning in a sea of fire. Moha looked at the bloody bodies of her pets in horror. She fell to her knees in front of her pet's body. The goddess's hands trembled as they dug into the tiger's soft skin. The girl could not understand what had happened during the time she had been unconscious. She felt her divine power in the flames. A terrible guess came to her. Moha listened to the muffled cries of the people. The goddess was sure that she couldn't do something like that. The girl raised her hand and realized that she had to put out the fire of her rage. She couldn't understand why her powers didn't obey her. Moha noticed that her trembling body began to crack. Scarlet streams slowly flowed onto the floor. The girl tightly gripped the handle of the blade. She asked where Manhwa-Hub was. With a grin, the guy noticed that his beloved had finally woken up. With a trembling voice, the goddess asked what had happened to the palace while she was unconscious. With a smile, the tyrant explained that the whole world was consumed by flames. The boy said that the lady had done all this. The king was amazed that her power was still so great. Manhwa-Hub looked away. The tyrant said that this was not part of his plan. The goddess held the blade tightly behind her back. Moha asked what her lover had done to her. The king grinned and explained that he wanted to curse her and say goodbye to life. The boy ran his fingers along the sharp blade. The king explained that a god could not be killed in the usual way. The tyrant explained that he had chosen the art of cursing for this purpose. Manhwa-Hub explained that he had gathered the most outstanding priests from all over the country and had worked for a long time on the plan. The ruler explained that he hoped the curse would work when her powers were weakest. And he simply waited. Scarlet drops appeared on the blade. The young man held the sharp blade tightly, not paying attention to the pain. The guy assumed that he had underestimated the god too much. Moha's voice broke into a scream. The girl asked why he did this to her. She reminded him that she had given up everything to save her beloved. The guy asked why she had given him such a long life. Manhwa-Hub explained that this was too difficult for a common man to bear. The king reminded her that she had saved him without permission and now vowed to kill him. The guy hovered over her and accused the goddess of selfishness. Embracing his beloved, the demigod explained that this was the basis of his plan. The tyrant looked at her disfigured face. The young man was disappointed that he could not go on his final journey with the goddess. Manhwa-Hub, clutching the blade tightly, enjoyed the effect of the curse. The guy abruptly snatched the weapon from her hands and pushed her away. The once beautiful sun goddess looked like an evil spirit. Manhwa-Hub grinned and wished her well. Taking the sword by the hilt, the traitor struck his throat with the blade. This act was a liberation for him. The girl realized that it was all over. Moha was kneeling in front of the bodies of her pets and her lover. The goddess heard this pleas for mercy. She realized that the reason for the end was her desire to spend eternity with her lover. With a heavy heart, the mistress looked at the lifeless body of her lover. Moha realized that too many lives had been ruined because of her selfish desire. With tears in her eyes, the girl whispered that she shouldn't have saved him. She realized that she could have prevented this ending. This would not have happened if the goddess had killed her lover with her own hands. Every moment turned into regret for Moha. Raising her eyes to the sky, she hoped that she could turn back time. The girl tightly gripped the hilt of the sword, pointing the blade at herself. Opening her eyes, the goddess realized that she was alive. Moha remembered how she committed suicide in the royal palace. She could not understand how she found herself in a wonderful forest. The goddess realized that this place looked too peaceful for the afterlife. Milady felt a familiar feeling inside. She decided to wet her throat first. Looking at the reflection, Moha squealed when she saw her face. She realized that the face did not belong to her. The goddess assumed that she was in a dream. The reincarnated woman decided to gather her thoughts and leave the forest. Moha longed to find someone and ask what had happened. She closed her eyes tightly. The girl almost squealed with joy when she saw one of her tigers. The reborn one was sure that her pet was dead. Moha remembered that the tiger's breath was cut off by the flame she summoned. The reincarnated one realized that the pet was alive and well. She turned to Henye. The tiger informed the lady that he was nearby. The girl could not believe that having faced death, she opened her eyes again in this place. Smiling, the reborn one said that she had been looking for a pet for a long time. Our heroine covered her mouth to keep from screaming with joy. The girl was taken aback when she realized that she had met another version of herself. The reborn realized that she was in a body unfamiliar to her. The goddess was taken aback when she saw herself. The damned one could not understand what had happened to her. The goddess told her pet that she was very sorry that he did not go to admire the flowers with her. Moho asked if it was lonely for the pet to wander around alone all the time. Hyunye explained that he didn't particularly like looking at flowers. The white tiger advised the goddess to return to the palace as soon as possible. Rams was afraid that this could harm her health. The lady reported that she felt surprisingly well. The reborn one thought that nothing had happened. The girl could not believe what was happening. She stepped on a branch and fell. She screamed loudly in pain. A large black tiger rode over the girl and asked who she was. Another pet noticed that the girl was spying on the sun goddess without fear. The tiger put his paw on the girl's fragile shoulder. He asked you why she was spying on them. The reborn gently placed her hand on the tiger's warm and fluffy fur. The girl realized that this was too real to be a dream. Tears began to roll from the eyes of the former goddess. She looked at the tigers and could not believe that they were really alive. The reborn remembered 300 years spent on Earth. The girl was deeply grieved by her lover's betrayal. The blame for the destruction of an entire state lay on Moha's shoulders. The anxiety grew due to the destabilization of the divine forces every day. The lady's health was getting weaker and weaker. This was causing her unbearable suffering. Only her pets were by her side, silently supporting her. The reincarnated one was overjoyed to see the divine tigers standing before her. She realized that she had never been able to repay the pets for their kindness. The goddess felt guilty for taking their lives with her own hands. Grabbing Ram by the muzzle, she asked what had happened. She explained that she had made sure that the pets had stopped breathing. The animal became aggressive in response. The goddess ordered the pet to stop attacking. Moha approached the stranger and extended a helping hand. The lady did not remember the girl. The reincarnated one could not believe that a copy from her past life stood before her. The girl suddenly grabbed the goddess by the shoulders. Henya gritted his teeth and ordered the girl to take her hands off the mistress. The reincarnated one, with a trembling voice, said that she was the goddess Moha. She explained what happened during her 300-year exile and return to heaven. The girl warned that Yemhu had betrayed the goddess. The goddess explained that her power had gone wild and the world was drowning in a sea of fire. The commoner burst into tears and explained that the fire had taken the lives of the pets. She explained that she had committed suicide along with Yemhu. Moha snorted that she had seen many people who pretended to be the sun goddess. Hyunye was shocked that someone would lie so brazenly in front of the mistress. Tiger said that Mrs. Moha still had to wait years to return. He couldn't believe that a commoner had seen the future. The tiger walked around the girl, warning her that he would not forgive her if she continued to talk such nonsense. The pet suggested returning to the palace. Moha gently touched the girl's hair and assumed that the girl had a nightmare. The goddess asked the stranger to descend the mountain more carefully. Moha said that she had seen many crazy people. The girl could not believe that she would return to heaven only after a year. The reincarnated realized that she had returned to the past a year ago. She could not believe what was happening. The girl decided to go down the mountain first. The goddess decided to first go down the mountain and find people. In her reborn heart, there was hope that she would be able to clarify the answer to all her questions. The girl realized that she was lost. Looking around, Moha was convinced that this place was familiar to her. She realized that this mountain was located in the vicinity of Moonju. The reincarnated realized that the evil spirits would not allow an ordinary person to pass. She could not believe that she was lost on the mountain behind her home. The girl realized that if she had divine power, she could descend with her eyes closed. Her body was very weak from long wanderings. Moha couldn't understand how she ended up in the body of this stranger. The girl turned her attention to the old man who was slowly walking along the paths. The goddess realized that she could go down if she followed him. Moha ran up to the man and touched his shoulder. The creature with the scary face turned around. The girl stepped back and assumed that he needed to go in different directions. All faces grinned, realizing the value of this find. The evil spirit said that he had never met people in this place before. The creature said it had been starving for months. It grabbed the girl's shoulder. Scarlet drops were visible on the snow-white robe. The reborn could not believe that she was destined to die again. Suddenly, the sword cut through the air. The creature's grip weakened, and the reincarnated one was able to break free. The creature's head quickly rolled down the slope. The girl fell helplessly to the ground. She realized that Hyun-ye was standing in front of her. The evil spirit said that this action was unfair. The werewolf cut off and then split the creature's head in half. The reborn could not understand how her child ended up in this place. The baby was sure that the tiger came down from the mountain. The girl in Hyun-ye's arms felt an incredible relief. Suddenly, the reincarnated one felt sleepy. After some time, the reborn woke up on a soft bed. The bright sun blinded her eyes. The girl felt an incredible headache. Suddenly, there was a bang of the door. The two girls quietly discussed what had happened. One of the girls suggested that the baby was an ordinary person. The girl did not emit any divine power. The stranger could not understand what the girl was thinking about when she was walking up the mountain. Even the Celestials did not particularly want to go down to the mountain valley. The reborn listened attentively to their conversation. Jumping up from the bed, she abruptly opened the curtain. The little girl felt a hellish pain in her left shoulder. The goddess reported that she had frightened them. The celestial being explained that the guest was not allowed to move. The brunette explained that the evil spirit had brutally wounded the baby, and she was bleeding heavily. The girl said that she should remain calm. The maid reported that the stranger was very lucky. The reincarnated realized that she was surrounded by the servants of the goddess Manhwa-Hub. The girl was amazed that she survived when she met the spirit of the Iron Mountain face to face. The celestial suggested that higher powers helped the little girl. The girl with pink hair assumed that the stranger knew where she was and who her savior was. Moha's assistants reported that the sun goddess herself was in this estate. The girl abruptly opened the door. With glowing eyes, she looked at the beautiful landscape outside the window. The water was rocking the lotuses. The reincarnated one realized that she had finally returned home. The king offered his beloved to spend 300 years in his palace. He understood that this place could not be compared with the heavenly palace. But she promised to make every effort to take care of her. The lady could not enjoy the benefits after being banished for her crime. The sun goddess was afraid that her powers would get out of control. The girl's eyes showed pain. She chose to settle down where no ordinary person could set foot. The young man said that on the outskirts of the western lands, there was a palace dear to him. Yom-hu suggested that his beloved wait out the hard times in that place. The king reported that people sometimes wandered there. The boy explained that there were incredibly beautiful views. He begged Mrs. Moha not to refuse his offer. The king could not understand what right he had to walk in the sun with his head held high. He promised his beloved to resign in a couple of years and move to the outskirts of the kingdom in order to protect her. Until then, the king asked his beloved to wait for him a little. The celestial asked the girl if everything was okay. The little girl asked when the day of the ascension of the sun goddess would come. The girl asked whether there really was a year left before the goddess would return to heaven. The assistant could not understand how the commoner dared to call the mistress by name. The maid realized that the girl was showing disrespect to the servants of the goddess. Reborn consciousness that it was not a dream. The servants whispered that perhaps she had seriously damaged her head. The brunette said that she was glad that the baby had woken up. The maid reminded that this place was the earthly palace of the goddess. The workers reported that the baby was saved by one of the 3 divine tigers of Lady Moha. The girl approached the little girl and put her hand on her forehead. She assumed that the stranger had still not recovered from yesterday's shock. The celestial offered her to stay in the palace until she was fully recovered. The maid said that it was time for them to go. She recommended that the girl get a good rest. The reincarnated one assumed that this was a chance granted by heaven. The goddess could not understand why she returned to the past in the body of an unknown girl. Moha was afraid that she couldn't change the past. She realized that in a year, her past self would turn into a demon that would destroy the entire world. The goddess realized that she had to stop Yem-hu. The reincarnated one knew that she would have to take the life of her beloved. She wanted to prevent the tragedy of that day. The girl crept through the impenetrable darkness. The owl hooted eerily. The door to the small room opened with a nasty creak. The reincarnated woman looked at the various weapons in the warehouse. Moha realized that she had no power to change the past. The little girl realized that it would take her several months to get to the royal palace of Yem-hu. The commoner realized that she couldn't convince her past self to ask for help. Moha was afraid that the sun goddess would try to stop her. The reincarnated woman realized that until the last day, she could not stop thinking about Yemhu. The girl began to think of countermeasures. She decided to borrow the powerful heavenly power contained in the divine scrolls. The reborn one decisively unrolled one of the scrolls. Suddenly, the bird drawn on it opened its eyes. Phoenix suddenly broke out of his writing. The little girl begged him to calm down. The reborn assured that she was its owner. The girl rolled up the scroll with difficulty. She found this situation tiresome. Moha was surprised that she had to be careful in her own armory. The damned one decided to take the scroll's ability as quickly as possible and leave. Suddenly, the door to the armory swung open. The little girl couldn't see the face of the person who entered. The reborn realized that Rams was standing in front of her. The holy tiger looked around and sniffed. He looked back sharply. The reborn one fell to the floor with a shudder. The girl covered her mouth with her hand. The goddess was incredibly happy to see her pet alive. The young man walked around the armory, listening carefully to every rustle. The reincarnated realized that she had seen the pet in the Iron Valley. The girl was sure that she had dreamed it. She was ready to experience the excitement of meeting him again. The reborn realized that if she got caught by Rams, he would consider her a thief. The goddess could not allow this to happen. She silently prayed for the tiger to come out of the armory. The reborn understood that she could not afford to fail in her plan to eliminate the traitor so that her pets would survive. The girl covered her mouth with her hands, hoping that he would not come in her direction. The man in white robes asked to come in. Squinting her eyes, the reborn tried to understand who the night guest was. The goddess assumed that it was a servant from the night watch. The guard looked around and assumed that there really was something in the room. The sacred tiger grinned and assumed that he had simply imagined it. The reborn's eyes were filled with panic. Rams was sure the sounds were coming from the armory. A phoenix wing burst from the scroll. The pet was glad that the lady had regained her vigor in recent days. Smiling, the guard suggested that it was because they had put so much effort into the lady's recovery. The werewolf said that it was because everyone worked for the benefit of Moha. The reincarnated realized that everyone worked for her benefit. The goddess was sorry that she drowned the world in a sea of fire. She was ashamed that she had scattered the efforts of the servants. The guard reminded him that last time Ram stood guard instead of him. The sacred tiger assured him that he could stand guard alone. The werewolf advised his colleague to return to his quarters and sleep. He said that he usually did not sleep at night. The werewolf saw the hesitation and said he was ready to listen. The Holy Virgin said she wanted to ask him something. The little girl sat hidden behind one of the boxes. This atmosphere seemed strange to her. The reborn realized that she had been squatting for too long. An unbearable pain shot through her leg. The maiden asked if there was anyone in his heart other than the lady. Moha could not resist moving from his place. The box of books fell to the floor. The night silence was broken by the crash of falling things. The scroll fell to the floor and unrolled. The phoenix burst out of the holy scripture with a furious cry. The bird screamed that there was a thief in the armory. Rams approached the little girl, hovering over her. The werewolf realized that standing before him was the girl he had saved the night before. The reincarnated one was surprised that she was labeled a thief for stealing her things. The celestials surrounded the little girl. The reborn was kneeling with her hands tied behind her back. The maid realized that this incident was partly her fault. The friend calmed the brunette and assured her that no one suspected that there would be an impudent person who would covet the goddess's things. The maid reported that most of the blame fell on Hyunye's shoulders. The werewolf saved the child in the Valley of Death. The maid abruptly closed her mouth when she saw her mistress approaching. The reincarnated woman couldn't believe that her past self was standing in front of her. Moha knelt down in front of the thief and looked her in the eyes. The goddess sat down in front of the reborn and told her real name. The maids began to talk among themselves, not believing what they had heard. The baby assumed that her past self had recognized her identity. The goddess laughed and explained that it was just a joke. The exile said that she remembered their first meeting. Smiling, the goddess explained that she was called by her name, telling an absurd story. Laughing, the lady said that she was sure that they would not see each other again. Moha explained that she had drawn some unpleasant conclusions. Hyunye admitted his guilt in this situation. The werewolf realized that he should not have dragged the stranger into the palace. The body of the reborn shuddered. The goddess said that if the sacred tiger had not done this, the baby would have died in the mountain valley. The exile smiled radiantly and explained that she was grateful to him. Moha said that she wanted to meet this child again. The red tiger growled menacingly and asked why. The goddess admitted that the baby's words just wouldn't leave her head. The lady asked the thief to tell the story in more detail. A spark of hope appeared in the faded gray eyes. The werewolves turned to Lady Moha. Henya asked why she was listening to the madman's nonsense. The lady ordered the tiger to stop. The werewolf was furious that the little girl had insulted the mistress and tried to steal the divine scrolls. Rams asked his brother to calm down. Tim said that Hyun-ye shouldn't have dragged a stranger into the palace. The little girl realized that she had made a mistake. The girl realized that she shouldn't have talked about it beforehand. That day, the reborn was completely confused. She asked the lady what the conversation was about. Tiger assumed that she did not understand the words that flew out of her mouth. The noble maidens burst into tears and begged Tim to calm down. The little girl bowed her head and said that the spirit's attack in the mountain valley had shocked her greatly. The reincarnated one assured that she did not remember the events of 2 days ago. Having paid, the guest explained that she did not remember how she met the goddess that day. Bowing her head, the culprit said that she had some guesses. The thief explained that she suffered from severe sleepwalking. She assumed that those words were just a dream. The girl assured that she would not have spoken such rude words to the great goddess. Tim caught the little girl in a lie. The sacred tiger was sure that the guest was trying to avoid punishment. The goddess asked why she tried to steal her scrolls last night. Hot tears began to flow from the eyes of the reborn, and her body trembled. The girl said that she could not understand how she dared to commit such a grave sin. She bowed her head before the goddess. The baby begged for death. The reborn one bowed her head and said that she deserved punishment. The goddess sighed heavily and said that there was nothing she could do about it. Moha asked to untie the girl's hands. The sacred tiger considered this an unthinkable stupidity. Having stroked Tim, the lady asked whether he felt sorry for the little one. Having purred the sacred animal, I noticed that the lady had always been gentle towards people. The reincarnated one sighed with relief. She knew that her past self could not be cruel to ordinary people. The girl realized that she would no longer be able to take possession of the scrolls. She realized with pain in her heart that she had to leave the palace empty-handed. The goddess said that she had one offer in return. Moha noticed that the girl was tired of poverty and was trying to escape to another country. The exile offered to become her servant. One of the girls stepped forward. The worker reminded that only celestials and divine beasts could serve Moha. She could not understand how a pathetic human could become a servant of the mistress. The goddess explained that this was just a custom that was not subject to law. The lady explained that in a year they would return to heaven, while the child will live an ordinary human life. The lady promised to give the girl wealth that will last her a lifetime. Moha asked to work for her for a year. Smiling, the lady asked whether the guest would accept her offer. The reincarnated one was surprised that her past version offered her such an option. She realized that she could not leave the palace empty-handed. The girl agreed to this proposal without hesitation. The reincarnated one could not understand what she was thinking. Suddenly, the celestials ran up to the little girl's room. The brunette asked the girl to say that it was hard for her to work as a maid. Her friend stopped her. The worker said that she liked the baby. Anya explained that she had a younger one who could be given the heavy work. The colleague was surprised that she was so happy about this news. The employee reminded her friend that she had recently complained that the most difficult tasks were assigned to the younger ones. Anya hugged the little girl, telling her that she had a lot to tell. Hyun-ye was against hiring a girl. The werewolf didn't want to let anyone near the mistress at such an important time. Tim said that he was against it too. The sacred tiger explained that he didn't like the crazy woman. The white tiger reminded that the Naiman was an ordinary person. Moha was shocked that Hyun-ye was afraid that the child could harm her. The lady doubted that a commoner could harm anyone. The goddess said that she wanted to check something. A week had passed since the reincarnated woman had arrived at her palace from her past life. Anya was delighted when she saw the maid in new clothes. The girl said that the baby was a noble servant of the mistress. The baby dreamed of grabbing the scrolls and getting away from this place. Moha realized that the armory's security had been strengthened. She knew that she should observe the situation for a while. The goddess could not believe that after her reincarnation, she became a servant. Anya decided to formally introduce herself. Sol Hong asked to contact her if any questions arose, and she asked what the new girl's name was. The reborn realized that she had never thought about her name since she had entered this body. The little girl lowered her eyes and said that she had no name. She explained that this was due to heartbreaking circumstances. Anya, with a radiant smile, said that a name could always be thought up. The Celestial suggested calling the girl a newbie to begin with. Smiling, the worker said that the newcomer was entrusted with the care of the divine tigers. Panic was visible on the thief's face. Forcing a smile, the reborn one pretended that she did not understand what was being discussed. Smiling, Anya informed the newcomer that she had heard everything correctly. The reborn realized that everyone in the world knew about the powerful guardian beasts of the sun goddess. The girl understood that they were the most faithful and dear subordinates of the goddess. Smiling, the celestial being said that the care of the 3 sacred tigers fell on the baby's shoulders for the entire year. The commoner's body began to shake with fear. She was sure that she would receive minor tasks in the palace. The reborn could not believe that she would serve the sacred beasts. The girl reported that the palace sent avoided caring for the sacred beasts. Anya, with shining eyes, explained that she had asked them to work together. The girl understood that she had to take care of the baby. The reincarnated one assumed that this was retribution for the sins she had committed in the past. The girl was shocked that she had returned to the past in someone else's body and had to serve her subordinates. The goddess realized that she owed the heavens an unpayable debt. She assumed that this was a sign. This idea eased her confusion a little. The girl realized that in this body, she had done many things that made the tigers hate her. The reincarnated girl shuddered at the thought of death. Seol Hong noticed that the girl looked bad. The celestial asked if everything was okay with her. Anya asked the newcomer not to worry so much. The worker understood why her colleague was worried. The celestial understood that this case was quite unusual. Anya reminded that the newcomer, being a human, had already managed to provoke their anger. Smiling, she reminded him that she had served werewolves for over 200 years. She promised to use her experience to make the baby a beloved servant of the divine beasts. The new girl walked slowly through painfully familiar places. There was tension in the air. The pleasant aroma of freshly cooked food was in the air. The reincarnated one was angry that Anya and Sol Hong did not help her. The celestial informed them that they would not be able to do this. Anya explained that they had one very urgent matter. The brunette asked to do everything according to their advice. The little girl was surprised that they lied to her so obviously. The girl understood why the maids were so happy about her appearance in the palace. Moha kept all the warm memories of the sacred beasts. She knew more about their warm hearts than anyone else. The reincarnated one knew that due to the circumstances, they would not treat her kindly. The maid hoped that the tiger was not so cruel as to harm a weak person. The girl reached the door and froze for a few moments. Her heartbeat echoed in her ears. The reborn tried to convince herself that everything would be okay. She said that she had already brought breakfast. The animal's keen sense of smell quickly caught the aromatic scent. The werewolf asked the girl to come in. The sacred tiger jumped up from his bed. He was amazed that she would even think of feeding him. Tim couldn't understand why she came so late. The new girl turned to Mr. Tim. The sacred tiger could not understand what the thief was doing in his room. The little girl explained that from that day on, she would serve him. He couldn't believe that the girl was their servant. Tiger thought that everyone had simply gone crazy. The werewolf did not want to be served by a thief who did not know the basics. The sacred animal said that this was unacceptable. Grabbing the table, he swung it sharply, asking where Anya and Sulkan were. The little girl asked him to calm down first. After all, even a holy virgin could die from such a blow. Anya told the new girl that Mr. Tim had a rather harsh character. The inhabitant of heaven assumed that he would get angry upon seeing the thief. The maid warned that if he lost his temper, it would be difficult to cope. She assumed that serving Mr. Tim was more difficult than serving the others. Anya reported that the master's weakness was food. The divine tiger realized that by remaining in his natural form, he could increase his ration. Tim did not turn into a human to feed more. The girl said that she could easily calm the tiger's anger. The maid tried to gather her courage. The new girl handed the master a basket with fresh pork ribs. The reincarnated one reminded him that he had wanted to try this dish yesterday. The maid hoped to have a quiet morning. The tiger's mouth slowly began to drool. Tim overturned the table, considering this unheard-of impudence. He said that the lady's well-being was his first priority. The werewolf couldn't stand to see a potential threat walking around the palace. He wondered if the little girl would have done the same in his place. The tiger promised not to touch the food until it left the palace. The divine beast was determined to starve to death. Tim ordered the maid to leave his sight. He did not want to see the girl. When the maid disappeared behind the door, he looked at the juicy meat that was scattered on the floor. The goddess couldn't believe that Tim was so worried about her. The reincarnated one didn't know how to react to this situation. The maid didn't know how to look them in the eye. She decided to close her eyes tightly and enter the room. Hyun-ye, in human form, opened the door. The new girl lost her balance and almost fell from fright. She grabbed the master by the kimono. The maid accidentally splashed water on the divine tiger. Turning to Hyun-ye, the girl tried to jump up abruptly. The reincarnated girl accidentally hit her head on the forehead of the sacred tiger. The girl burst into tears and couldn't understand how it happened. The maid asked if everything was okay with him. With a trembling voice, the new girl said that she had done it unintentionally. With kimono drops of water slowly trickled down the baby's cheek. She gently touched Hyun-ye's cheek. The young man asked irritably what she was doing. Drops of cold sweat began to roll down the body of the reborn. She explained that she was trying to help him dry himself. The sacred tiger asked who had asked her to do this. The baby was most worried about the black divine tiger. He protected the goddess with unconditional devotion. In the past life, rumors repeatedly reached the workers that the young man was frightening them. The little girl burst into tears. She sat on the goddess's lap, reporting the cruelty of the divine beast. Moha assured that her pet was not that evil. The worker explained that she was his owner. The girl was sure that he was completely different towards his mistress. Reincarnated, she realized that the divine beast did not allow anyone to get close to it. It was difficult for Henyi to find a common language with others. Anya asked the new girl not to get distracted. The celestial asked her to remember just one thing. She realized that Anya had served the divine beasts for a long time. The girl was sure that she had grasped their main essence. The celestial being asked not to do anything. She explained that there was no point in doing anything in front of Mr. Hyun-yo. The maid said that one should blend into the air when near a tiger. The celestial possessed a concealment technique that she had mastered over several centuries. The werewolf did not like to contact others without necessity. He would never allow the line he had drawn to be crossed. Laughing, Anya admitted that when she first started serving Henye, she was very scared. Despite his bad character, the divine tiger looked great. The maid gently touched Hyunye's massive chest with her finger. The master ordered her to leave. The celestial said that she wanted to live a quiet life in the palace. The reincarnated realized that she had crossed that very line. The heartbeat echoed in his ears. Drops of cold sweat quickly mixed with the water. The maid fell to her knees and asked for mercy. Moha knew that it was not appropriate for the sun goddess to speak such words. The young man couldn't understand why he had dragged the little girl into the palace. The divine tiger sighed heavily and adjusted his hair. His red eyes looked at the girl with disdain. Hyunye asked if she intended to stay in the palace. He explained that most of the inhabitants were eager to throw the thief out. With her eyes downcast, the reincarnated woman said that she had no other choice. She said that she had no money and nowhere to go. The worker said she was in no position to think about her conscience. Well, her eyes showed sadness. Her lungs were constricted with excitement, and tears were welling up in her eyes. Pomraknev Hyunye said that he wanted her to leave the palace herself. The divine tiger said that he still did not trust her. The youth did not want there to be a reason for unrest in the palace. The boy could not go against the will of the lady. He did not force the girl to leave the palace. The tiger realized that he had to be responsible for the one he brought to the palace. The master informed her that she must remain within his sight. He explained that the maid must not leave his side for a single step. Hyunye decided to make sure that the girl didn't do anything wrong. His face showed sternness and reproach. The new girl realized that he intended to follow her. The little girl frantically realized that this could lead to the failure of her plan. A small tremor ran through her body. The reborn looked up uncertainly. Suddenly, she sneezed. Irritated, I assumed she was laughing. Kneeling down, she told the master that she had not laughed. The girl explained that she was glad that Master Hin Ye had allowed her to stay in the palace. The sacred tiger explained that he had merely said that he would not chase her away. The reincarnated one could barely contain her laughter. She couldn't believe that he was willing to stay with such an annoying person. The reborn knew that things were bad for her. The girl could barely hold back a smile. The werewolf did not want to stay near his mistress unless it was necessary. In a past life, the goddess saw how the tiger became uncomfortable around her. Hyun Ye often had a displeased expression on his face. He tried his best to send his negligent mistress back to heaven. The black tiger said that he was going to the Iron Valley on business. The sacred beast ordered the little girl to follow him as soon as she finished her morning business. There was fear in the little girl's voice. The girl asked hesitantly. She still remembered the monster that attacked her that night. The reincarnated woman reminded her that there were evil spirits on the mountain. The maid suggested that the tiger was going to abandon her in the valley. Hyun Ye hovered over her. He was clutching the hair ribbon tightly in his hand. The sacred beast explained that he had infused some divine power into the item. The savior said that evil spirits would not dare to attack her. Letting go of her modest braid, the young man asked her not to be late. The master promised to personally take her life if she decided to harm the mistress. The maid sat down and took the water bowl. The girl happily realized that Rams was the only one left of the three tigers. Anya told the new girl that she didn't have to be too careful with the white tiger. Rams was very gentle and good-natured. The reincarnated one knew how caring and gentle the white tiger was. The goddess did not forget how many times he supported and consoled her over all those years. In the past life, there were days when time dragged on endlessly. It was very difficult for the goddess to wait out that time on earth. Someone asked the lady to come out to the balcony. The white tiger raised a whirlwind of delicate sakura petals. Rams always made the goddess smile. The celestial reported that the tiger paid special attention to his morning preparations. Anya reported that it would be better to help the gentleman with this. The reincarnated girl remembered that Seol Hong was trying to tell her something. Knocking hesitantly on the door, the new girl said that she brought water for the master to wash. Rams allowed her to enter. The master watched the slowly falling sakura petals carefully. A light wind fluttered his long, silky locks. The white tiger turned his head and asked who the girl was. Smiling, he said that he was interested in the fate of the little girl. The werewolf hoped that the maid felt better. Smiling, the reborn one said that it was all thanks to the grace of the sun goddess. Rams was worried that the human body would have a hard time recovering from such hardships. He was surprised that the little ones had to serve the divine tigers. The master was surprised by the cruelty of the celestials. Rams explained that the maids had dumped the hardest work on the new girl. The master realized that the workers did not want to take care of the divine tigers. The young man, noticing the girl's embarrassment, assumed that she had had a hard time. The sacred tiger noticed that her hair and clothes were soaking wet. The ribbon began to emit a slight reddish glow. Rams carefully untied the baby's hair. He kindly offered his help to the girl. A smile was visible on the white tiger's face. The wooden comb gently combed the girl's wavy hair. Rams promised to stay by the baby's side and look after her. The reincarnated woman happily realized that she could climb the mountain without fear again. The young man admitted that he had expected such a reaction from Tim, but he had not expected such a reaction from Hyun Ye. Winking, the divine tiger informed him that he was very shy. Rams explained that his brother liked to be alone for this reason. The young man assumed that he was going through a hard time. The gentleman recalled that the girl was constantly getting into trouble. Rams realized that it would be difficult for both the girl herself and the tiger who brought her. The reborn admired her pet's smile. Hearing his laughter, the girl felt as if that ill-fated day was just a bad dream. The little girl dreamed that the nightmare would be a simple dream. Rams asked her not to worry. The master promised that soon the doubts would dissipate when she showed sincerity. He deftly wielded this comb, and then he asked if the girl liked the hairstyle. The new girl's face showed confusion. The maid admitted that she felt awkward. She reminded that she had to help the gentleman. The girl was amazed that she received help from him. The divine tiger was glad that his insignificant ability helped the little girl. The worker reported that his ability was not insignificant. The worker explained that the ability to control the wind was very valuable and brought great benefits. The tiger adjusted his snow-white curls and said that he had often heard something like this. Rams knew that his body was considered one of the best in heaven. He couldn't understand what use it was. The werewolf realized that his ability was absolutely useless to the mistress. The celestial spirit explained that his abilities had been distorted while on Earth. His gray eyes drooped. Rams reported that this also applied to the sun goddess. The divine tiger explained that Moha's spirit had suffered greatly due to the expulsion. He reported that the lady could not fully control her power. The girl was slowly losing her vitality, unable to withstand the heat. Lately, the lady had been very concerned about this problem. Rams was afraid that the whole earth could end up in a sea of flames. With pain in her heart, the reborn remembered her mistake. The girls often had nightmares where people screamed in pain. The Lord admitted that he wanted to be useful to the sun goddess. Rams tried his best to cool the heat. The heavenly spirit guessed that his strength was not enough to compare with Moha's divine strength. The girl said that the goddess would be very grateful that Rams was next to her. After these words, the young man cheered up. He thanked the little girl for her sincere support. The reincarnated girl realized that because of her foolish choice, she had forced him to bear a heavy burden. The girl was determined to protect his smile until the end. The maid realized it was time to go. The worker was afraid that Henye would get angry. The baby realized that she had eaten too much. The guy smiled and asked not to hurry. He warned that there were very steep mountains in the Iron Valley. Rams waited until the girl left his room. The divine tiger slowly walked back to his place. Rubbing his hands, he reported that there was too much trash in the palace. The girl ran with all her might. She was afraid that the black tiger was angry with her. The little girl tripped and fell. 3 celestials leaned over our heroine. One of the girls muttered that it would be better if she sat in the palace. The new girl asked who the girls were. The brunette was extremely angry that the man with no family was addressing them so disrespectfully. The girl assumed that she did not recognize her place. The reincarnated remembered that there was a special atmosphere between Rams and Don Mi. The little girl asked for forgiveness for that day. The maid reminded her that she overheard the girl's secret conversation with Rams. Drops of cold sweat began to roll down the girl's face. Don Mi, breaking into a scream, ordered the little girl to close her mouth. The maids explained that they had come to receive confirmation that she would leave the palace. The celestial explained that they were tired of living with a human under the same roof. She asked if the little girl knew what kind of atmosphere reigned in the palace. Sulcone suggested leaving on a good note. The maid admitted that she had no plans to leave the palace. Suddenly, delicate peacock feathers rained down from the sky. Everyone suddenly looked up. The goddess of prophecy, Charan, admitted that she had not been to Nanyan for a long time. The girl asked how the goddess of the sun, Moha, was doing. The celestials noticed Charan's sudden appearance. The girls could not believe that the goddess of prophecy was in Nanyan Palace. The maids woke up. The celestials hurriedly headed towards Mrs. Moha. The workers understood that the sun goddess should be prepared for the meeting. The little girl could not understand why the goddess of prophecy came at this moment. The sun goddess quickly came to Charan's side. The goddess of prophecy hugged her friend tightly. The girl breathed a sigh of relief, realizing that her friend's face looked fresh. There were many rumors circulating in the heavenly palace. Charan explained that there were rumors in the heavens that the sun goddess was not feeling well. The goddess remembered that her friend said that she lost consciousness for several days and could not wake up. The maids tried their best to please the mistress. Moha assured that she was completely fine, and she assured that she only had a slight clouding of consciousness. The goddess of prophecy explained that the celestials were not so weak that they were bothered by minor ailments. Charam assumed that the goddess had become very weak due to her long stay on Earth. Her friend realized that Moha knew about this. The gods' bodies contained a power that was supported by the pure energy of heaven. Charan explained that there was a special energy on Earth. The celestial was afraid that her friend's body might not be able to withstand it. She warned that Moha should be careful. The goddess of prophecy warned that she could remain on Earth forever. Charan warned that she could lose her status as a celestial. The goddess of prophecy realized that this would be very sad. The maids began to talk among themselves. The workers knew that Charan liked to interfere in heavenly affairs and give advice. The goddess was nicknamed the greatest puppeteer. The girl had a rather difficult character. The maids began to worry that the mistress would not be able to return to heaven. Dongmi asked them not to say such nonsense. The reborn was surprised by how tense the atmosphere was in the palace. The girl realized that everything the goddess of prophecy said was true. Rams apologized for interrupting the conversation. Smiling, the divine beast explained that it was cold outside. He was afraid that the lady might have suffered from the cold. The young man explained that Moha had recently restored her body. He suggested that they go into the palace. Cha-Ran felt awkward for calling her colleague. The goddess felt ashamed for forcing such a weak body to be held outside. The guest thanked Rams for warning her. She noticed the young man's kind heart. Cha-Ran gently scratched his neck. The goddess explained that she was very upset. The guest suggested going inside the estate. She said that she had a lot of news. Rams grabbed the lady's hand. The divine beast asked her to speak if she had any difficulties. Smiling, Moha promised to do the same. The goddess assured that she was completely fine. She assumed that the divine tiger understood what was in her heart. The reborn woman sighed heavily, realizing that big problems awaited her. Anya called out to the new girl. The maid asked if she knew where Mr. Henye was. The girl said that he had gone to the Iron Valley. The maid couldn't believe her ears. The commoner asked why her colleague needed the master. The girl gave the new girl food and clothes for 2 weeks. She explained that this set needed to be delivered to the gentleman. The celestial being asked to convey to the gentleman that he would have to stay in the mountains for 2 weeks. The little girl wondered why the divine tiger would have to live in the mountains. The girl explained that the goddess hated Henye. Anya promised to tell the details when her colleague finished work. The celestial asked to go to the master as quickly as possible, literally pushing her out. The reborn passed the warning signs. The girl noticed that the Iron Valley had become calmer. She consoled herself with the fact that she had a ribbon with divine power. The maid understood that she would not be torn apart by monsters. The girl lightly touched the tape. She could not understand why there was no reaction. After all, the tape was supposed to show the direction to the master. The little girl doubted that the master had put his power into this tape. The reincarnated one assumed that her body could not sense the divine power. Suddenly, the tape jerked in the other direction. The new girl heard an obsessive voice that wanted her to go further. This action seemed rude to her. She begged the tape to stop. The girl could not understand what was wrong. The reborn realized that this thing was leading her along a thorny path. One of the branches touched her tender cheek. Scarlet drops were visible on her snow-white skin. The little girl clutched the bleeding wound tightly. She assumed that Hyun-ye had taken responsibility for her death. The girl pressed her eyes tightly with her hands. The reborn was sure that the black tiger did not have such cruelty. The goddess decided to remove the ribbon first. Her hand was electrocuted. The baby fell to the ground in surprise. The tape continued to drag her fragile body along the thorny path. The girl frantically realized that there was a cliff ahead. The worker grabbed onto a tree root with her last strength. The maid fell on sharp stones. Having fallen from a great height, the reincarnated one severely smashed her head. She realized that she should not lie in this place. As the little girl burst into tears, she realized that she had unfinished business. The girl realized that there were countless lives that needed to be protected. Moha was about to stand up. A silhouette of a strange person appeared before her eyes. The little girl assumed that it was a monster. The maid tried to get up, despite the severe pain. Her body was convulsing. The girl asked the stranger not to come closer. She said that she was a servant of the great sun goddess. The reincarnated one realized that she had seen those amber eyes before. The young man grabbed the girl abruptly and looked at her carefully. The stranger asked to look into his eyes. A multitude of eyes appeared on the face. With disappointment, the boy realized that he was wrong. He understood that Moha's powerful soul did not need such a worthless shell. Suddenly, a bright glow began to emanate from the girl. The little girl could not understand what had happened a moment ago. The reborn one could not understand why the strange creature was lying on the ground. The maid was extremely happy to see the master. The worker was sure that she would die in this place. Having taken the sword out of its sheath, the divine tiger clarified who the girl really was. With a trembling voice, the little girl asked why he acted in such a way. The Lord was surprised when he saw the outpouring of divine power on the cursed mountain. The youth realized that it happened in an instant. The celestial couldn't ignore something like this. Heng Ye immediately went to get the remaining bit of divine energy. The reborn could not believe that divine power was in her. The girl clearly remembered how she fell from the cliff and broke. Moha felt excruciating pain. The maid realized that she felt too good. She assumed that there was a mystical power hidden in her body. The girl remembered how the stranger touched her face. After that incident, her vision suddenly became blurry. The little girl hoped that the stranger would be able to tell her what had happened. She looked at the place where the monster had been lying a few moments ago. Hyun-ye admitted that he knew something was wrong with her at first glance. Since the mistress treated the maid well, he suppressed his doubts. The divine tiger found it strange that she tried to approach the lady without saying anything to her power. The gentleman decided to kill the girl to prevent all possible risks. The boy grinned and touched the divine tiger's shoulder. The young man explained that the divine energy was coming from him. The stranger explained that he suddenly decided to use force when an incident happened to him. The creature explained that he had a tricolor marble. The guy said it was made from a dragon's tooth. The stranger explained that this thing could be useful during hunting. With sadness in his voice, he reported that his stone had cracked. The hunter was sure that there was no problem with that. The creature reported that this artifact almost took his life. He assured that the young lady was innocent. The stranger explained that the little girl was unlucky to end up with him in such a place. The reborn one could not understand why the stranger decided to help her. He apologized for his mistake. He asked if the girl was hurt. And then the young man winked at her slightly. The black tiger asked who he was and where he came from in this area. The stranger explained that with such arrogance, he would not be able to achieve the lady's recognition. The young man explained that he was practically the black tiger's mentor. Ryok said he was glad to see them. The creature explained that she was a guardian who served Lady Charan. The reborn understood why the amber eyes seemed painfully familiar to her. The girl understood why she did not recognize him. The celestial assured that he was telling the pure truth. Ryuk explained that several hundred years ago, he was the goddess's most faithful assistant. Hyun-ye guessed that he had angered the lady so much that she had sucked him to the ground. The divine tiger knew that he wandered the world alone. The youth assumed that Ryuk liked this. The reincarnated woman couldn't understand the reason. Moha remembered her friend saying that he was her favorite animal. The goddess of prophecy adored him as her own child. Ryuk admitted that he spoke the truth. The exile explained that this angered him. Henye reminded him that his mistress was on the ground. The divine tiger was obliged to protect Moha from all dangers. The werewolf assumed that his old acquaintance knew what he was talking about. The young man asked not to create more problems. The guy decided to ignore what had happened. Hyun-ye asked Ryuk not to be seen by him. Turning into a tiger, the gentleman suddenly grabbed the girl and threw her into the air. She fell on the tiger's broad back. The maid asked where they were going. Ryuk realized that he had just met his new mistress. Large drops fell on the mountain valley. The new girl sat on the back of the divine tiger. The little girl asked where they were going. The reincarnated girl realized that she would not get an answer. She remembered how Hyun-ye treated her as his master. The divine beast announced that they had arrived. He slowly entered a small secluded cave. With a slight movement, the tiger threw the baby off his back. Having adjusted his hair, the gentleman explained that this place was his refuge. The little girl looked around in surprise. The reincarnated one realized that the black tiger was indeed not a frequent guest at Nanyan Palace. The girl assumed that he spent most of his time in this secluded cave. In her past life, Moha didn't even know this place existed. The candles created a subtle play of light on the walls. The master carefully wiped the blood from the baby's face. He asked the maid to sit next to him. Hyun-ye knew that he needed to take care of the wound. The snow-white napkin slowly turned scarlet. Tiger asked where it hurt. Awkwardness hung in the air. The reborn couldn't believe that he had always been like this. The girl assumed that too much time had passed since they had been close. The maid realized that this situation was very strange. The divine tiger asked why she did not answer. The boy insistently repeated his question once again. The girl assured that everything was wonderful. Despite minor injuries, she did not feel pain. The gentleman took out a small bowl. His massive fingers dipped into the ointment. The divine tiger carefully smeared the medicine onto the scratch on the girl's cheek. The maid said that she was in pain. Looking away, the little girl thanked the master. Hyun-ye asked if she knew how to behave calmly. The divine tiger noticed that wherever the girl appeared, chaos ensued. The reborn assured that she did not do it of her own free will. The little girl explained that the ribbon threw her from side to side as soon as she entered the valley. The young man swore on his heart and life that this could not be. The boy felt Rams's magic. The gentleman said that he had an idea of what might have happened. He asked to give him some time to study it thoroughly. Hengye asked if the maid could sit alone. The master explained that he needed time to pick up something. The divine tiger reminded that there was a heavy rain outside. He assumed that the girl did not want to get soaked to the skin. The maid noticed a small bag. The little girl remembered that Anya had asked to give the divine beast a bundle. The reincarnated one gave it Ani's recommendations and assured that the goddess of prophecy was in the palace. Hengye sighed heavily and said that he knew about it, and he really was going to do so. The maid heard that he could not stay in the palace during his visit to the mistress. She asked what happened between the divine beast and Quran. In the past, the goddess of prophecy treated the baby with disdain. She could not understand how the filthy creature ended up in the palace. The maid told the mistress that he was the new spiritual beast Moha. The girl assumed that he reported everything to the mistress. The spirit beast did not dare to create discord between the two masters. The tiger did not blame Karan for her hatred of his person. The lady herself was so used to him that she completely forgot what he really was. The divine beast explained that he was not from heaven. The gentleman said that he was from the demonic realm. He looked sadly at the raindrops falling quickly. His red eyes showed emptiness. Charan noticed the dragon's silhouette outside the window. She assumed that the god of waters had departed for the kingdom of Hwaryuguk. The goddess of prophecy assured that he was very worried about Moha. The girl admitted that they lost track of time while discussing their experiences with the sun goddess. Moha lowered her eyes and said that she was incredibly grateful to the god of water, who descended upon the kingdom every year so that the heat would not dry out the land. The goddess of prophecy explained that he was betrayed because he wanted to marry Moha. Young was the best choice for the sun goddess. The young man was the son of the previous emperor. The water goddess was a very influential person among the heavenly deities. Yanghe was quite attractive. The heavenly angels yearned for him. With a wink, the goddess of prophecy assured that the young man would be an ideal match for Moha. The girl assured that such joy had never been seen in the heavenly kingdom. Tim assumed that the mistress's poor health was just a pretext. The divine tiger was sure that the goddess had come to push Moha into marriage. The divine beast couldn't understand why she was fixated on the water god. Lord Yanhe was an inveterate womanizer. The god often changed girls. Smiling, the white tiger said that it was very important to take care of the lady's health. Rams recalled that last year he personally looked for the lady in order to propose to her. The young man reminded him that the sun goddess had given him a clear refusal. But the red tiger was still worried. The guest could not believe that her friend had feelings for an earthly man. Smiling, Moha said that she was ready to reconsider her decision. The exile placed her hand on her chest. The sun goddess lowered her eyes and explained that she had always been stupid. The lady realized that she and Yemhu belonged to different worlds. The girl felt ashamed that she had avoided this fact for so long. Moha understood that a long life awaited her. The sun goddess decided to be with someone who has the same goals and wants to live in the same world as her. The girl understood that every union must have its own benefit. Moha said that she wanted to ask the guest something. The sun goddess heard that Karan was in love with the one she was putting forward. A slight tremor ran through the girl's body. The room burst into laughter. She couldn't believe that the lady was so worried. Karan assured that it was in her deep youth. The guest explained that during the millennia that she lived on Earth, she had been in love with more than one man. The goddess of prophecy reported that it was only a fleeting love. Karan reported that this happened 1,000 years before the birth of her interlocutor. Moha realized that she had nothing to worry about. The guest assured that she would be happy with such a union. The girl assured that everyone was waiting for Moha to return. She realized that after this, there would be a grand celebration in honor of the wedding. The guest's body was still covered with a slight tremor. The red paw deftly grabbed one of the treats. Tim was disappointed that the lady didn't even tell him that I was going to get married. Pomraknev Charan informed that she had caught sight of a black tiger. Looking around, the sun goddess explained that he liked to stay in the shadows. Karas reported that he was smart despite his lowly origin. The goddess reminded that the tigers could return to heaven with the lady. Charon explained that Hyun-yo belonged to the demonic realm. She assured that the black tiger would have to wander alone around the earthly kingdom. The girl was sure that it was better for them to build a distance now. The little girl sat in the cave. Small candles cast a dim light on the walls of the cave. The reborn looked carefully at the entrance. The girl knew how much Hyun-ye hated the cold. The little girl realized how lonely the divine tiger had been all these years. She assumed that he had been through a lot. The gentleman could calmly talk about his belonging to the demonic race. Hyun-ye was dealing with troubles all by himself. Moha realized that she was very pathetic. In her past life, she was completely immersed in her problems. The girl realized that she should have been the first to reach out to him. Suddenly, there was the unpleasant sound of footsteps in the mud. The little girl greeted the master joyfully. The maid asked where he had been. The divine tiger suddenly approached the girl and fell on her lap. The reincarnated one began to shake him, trying to wake him up. The girl made a small fire. The branches crunched under the influx of fire, giving the place at least a little coziness. The maid asked the young man what he was looking for. Touching his forehead, she realized that the master had a fever. The reincarnated one decided to add some firewood to the fire. The divine tiger placed his hand on her waist. Hyun-yo could see Moha in the little girl. He begged the sun goddess not to leave him. The master said that he wanted to stay by her side forever. The girl asked him to wait a few moments. The reincarnated one wanted to bring more wood for the fire. She noticed that the divine tiger was shivering from the cold. The newcomer looked at the fire and realized that it would soon go out. Letting go of the reincarnated Hyun-ye's hand, he returned to the warm bed. The maid approached him and asked him not to worry. The girl promised to stay close. The little girl reminded him that he wanted her to always remain on his side. The gentleman, having taken the form of a tiger, lay down on the bed. The reborn realized that she was able to feel much more thanks to this body than when she was a deity. Moha couldn't remember the last time she saw a tiger so defenseless. She realized that Heng-ye was hiding his feelings. The sun goddess was deeply hurt by this behavior. The girl realized that this was her last day on earth. Moha realized that she could no longer be called the mistress of the black tiger. The demonic beast lowered his eyes and assured her that there was no need to worry about such things. The exile thanked the young man for staying by her side. The reborn assumed that the tiger felt the same as she did. The baby lay down next to the master. The giant placed his massive paw on her. The goddess remembered that the tiger had said something similar the first time they met. Moha met the tiger 3 years after her exile. Rams asked the lady if she was sure that she was ready to enter the underworld. The goddess assured that this was not her first time in this place. The girl explained that she was in this place on a very important matter. She decided to ask the god of the underworld for forgiveness. She lowered her eyes and reminded him that she had shared the sacred medicine with her beloved. The girl realized that she had violated the rules of the underworld. The goddess explained that she had been holding on to Yemhu. Moha realized that the young man had died and went to that place again. That place gave her a creepy feeling. The goddess realized that this did not bother her much. Unlike Ram's condition, she assumed that she should go on alone. The girl wrapped the baby in a shield. Moha hoped that the divine tiger felt lighter and warmer. The servant noticeably cheered up. The kid stepped into a strange, sticky black liquid. Rams asked what it was. Soon the goddess and the baby approached an endless sea of sticky black liquid. The divine beast asked why the river was making strange sounds. He noticed the strange seething black water. Looking down, the girl explained that it was the river of the underground kingdom. Moha explained that this riverbed was filled with souls. The sun goddess reported that this river was filled with the wicked souls of people who committed irreparable sins. The two creatures poured out a new portion of sinful souls from the buckets. The demon with bluish skin took one of the souls and directed it into his throat. Rams watched this with horror. The baby, having turned into a tiger cub, jumped into the arms of the lady. The girl explained that in each circle of hell, everyone served a punishment. Moha assured that after purification, they were reborn. The goddess explained that those who found themselves in this river were doomed. She assured that the sins were too grave. Souls, after immersion in the river, lost all memories of their lives. They were doomed to bathe in pain and cold for eternity. Moha assumed that if she were mortal, she would also merge into the existence of this river. The girl realized that they should hurry. A strange liquid enveloped the goddess's body, wondering where she was going. Moha assumed that it was a soul from the Black River. She hugged the baby tightly, closing his eyes. The soul begged the goddess to take it with her. The exile assumed that the strange creature felt the warmth of her body. She explained that the souls were constantly trying to escape from the river. Moha asked for forgiveness. The goddess understood the pain the creature was experiencing. She realized that he could not go with them. The girl asked him not to resist and not to pursue them. She sadly realized that the soul did not understand a single word. Moha realized that they were guided only by their instincts. The strange, sticky liquid began to twitch and soon retreated from the girl. The goddess found this strange. She noticed that the black soul emitted a dim light. Moha told the white tiger that it was time for them to leave. The sinful soul begged the girl not to leave her. The sun goddess slowly approached the castle. Laughing, John welcomed the hopeless romantic maiden from the heavenly kingdom. The gentleman said with a smile that he had heard rumors about her expulsion. The young man admitted that he had allowed himself to be jealous of Moha towards a man. The guest lowered her eyes and asked for forgiveness. Moha realized that she had behaved extremely stupidly. The girl realized that she had broken the commandments of the underworld. Smiling, John admitted that he had missed her very much all these years. His friend could not allow small mistakes to ruin their bond. The sun goddess was sure that he had been avoiding her for the last few years. She knew it was because of disappointment. John grinned and approached the girl. The god of the underworld assured her that it was just a misunderstanding. The young man reminded him that Moha was one of his best friends. The young man explained that he had been too lenient towards her. John reminded her that the exile had broken the law. God explained that he had pretended to agree with them. The boy said that she had no idea how much he had missed her. The master hoped that Moha could forgive him. The god of the underworld suggested changing the subject. John asked to tell the funniest stories that happened to the girl. He admitted that hell was boring. The young man said that he really wanted to hear stories about her lover. The god of the underworld hoped that Moha would visit. The exile explained that she could not accept his offer. She said that she needed to repay for her actions. John wished her a safe journey. The young man warned that the lands of the underworld were very harsh. The demon noticed the creeping shadow. They tried their best to grab it. The servant reported that one of the souls had left the Black River. The god of the underworld looked sternly at the crawling soul. The guest reported that she had offended her. Moha could not understand how the sinful soul could get into the palace. John chuckled and looked at the soul with curiosity. God explained that they could only circle around the river. The young man could not believe that the soul had traveled such a long distance in half a day. John admitted that he had not seen such an outstanding soul for a long time. God said that such stubborn souls were given their chance at reincarnation. He sadly said that the sins of this soul were too grave. John was extremely happy that she accompanied his friend. God was delighted that the soul was able to get out of the territory of the Black River. He decided to give the soul another chance. The Lord decided to grant the soul life as his faithful servant. God asked how the soul wanted to be reborn. Looking at the tiger cub, John realized what kind of rebirth his soul wanted. John grabbed the soul roughly. It began to writhe in his hands. Soon, a dark whirlwind reigned in the palace. God thanked his friend. He said that thanks to the girl, he was able to find a wonderful candidate for a servant. John gently scratched Moha's pet behind the ear. The exile asked what he had done for his soul. Moha understood that this soul had a new body that God had given her. She realized that this body was artificial. The sun goddess felt sad that this soul would never be able to live as the body given to her. Moha reminded him that he had promised to give the soul a new life. The girl explained that the creature was neither alive nor dead. The sun goddess explained that the servant would have to endure more than he had endured in the Black River. Moha was told that he should not change the fate of the soul by his own will. The master said that the soul must be completely compatible with the body. He explained that usually the soul went through a special process of reincarnation. During this process, the soul and body were reunited into one whole. John reported that the soul might not take root. He realized that there might be a conflict that would prevent the creature from living fully. The god of hell said that the body could dissolve. The friend grinned and said that he had no other choice. The boy realized that by giving life to the soul, he would violate the laws of the underworld. God said that this soul had nothing to lose. John said that if the body dissolves, the soul will return to the black river that once swallowed it. He hoped that his help would be enough. God said that the tiger cub was his masterpiece. The young man realized that now this tiger cub was unrecognizable as the piece of mud from the black river. He carefully picked up his pet. John asked if the sun goddess thought his creation was as beautiful as her tiger cub. Rams hissed menacingly when he saw the sinful soul. God hoped that the soul could get along in this body. The Lord of the Underworld reported that the pet could be useful. Moha realized that it was too presumptuous of her to worry so much about others. The sun goddess informed Rams that it was time for them to return. The little boy confessed that he really wanted to go to Nanyan Palace. The girl thanked her friend for the warm welcome. Moha slowly headed towards the exit. She heard a scream behind her. The culprit asked what had happened. The god was clutching his bloody wrist tightly. The baby approached the goddess and pulled her by the hem of her kimono. John quickly approached his creation. He grabbed the baby roughly. The boy was furious that it did not recognize its owner. God grabbed the pet roughly by the scruff of the neck. He didn't want to let go of the hem. John tried to tear the baby away. He growled menacingly. The soul deftly jumped into the mistress's arms, knocking the rival out of there. God realized that the baby liked Moha. The young man grinned and said that he had a good idea. He offered the guest to take him away for a while. John said that the tiger cub was very small and didn't understand anything. The guy was sure that his girlfriend would become an excellent teacher. God said that it would be good for the kitten to live with other tigers. The young man suggested that the pet could become a full-fledged tiger. Taking his girlfriend by the hand, John asked her to do it for him. God reminded her that she was indebted to him. A friend asked to keep the pet until her punishment was over. The young man asked to tell the pets as soon as the girl went to heaven. Moha looked tenderly at her sleeping pet. The girl began to worry. The reborn felt sympathy and longing when looking at the black tiger. The exile assumed that John had foreseen this outcome. Moha was surprised every time she looked at him. The girl could not understand how someone like that could fall into the Black River. She assumed that the past had no meaning. The reincarnated one realized that this was remnants of a past life that he didn't even remember. The girl was glad that he was next to her. The goddess of prophecy couldn't believe that Moha decided to marry Yanhi after all this. She couldn't believe that her friend had given in to such a trivial fight. The sun goddess acted as if she was incredibly in love with that earthly man. Charan could not understand what would happen to the poor soul from the underworld. The girl realized that Moha was so stupid that she couldn't see the love of her life right in front of her nose.